Hi, my name is Lola Agnes Palokun. I like to be called LAF, LAF, right? Today we are going to be talking about the business outlook for 2026. So it's a very good time because it's still the beginning of the year that we speak about what we are looking forward to. So it's more like forecasting what we are going to be seeing in 2026. So our expectations in 2026. And one of the very important things is also to see how we can address the pains and gains of MSMEs in Nigeria. So the focus is really in Nigeria, but again, we can also look at some other places across the world, or especially Africa. Please join me as we go along. Okay, a little about myself. There's no way I won't do an introduction about myself before I start talking about the business for the day. My name is Lola Agnes Falokun, like I said, laugh, and I'm a business consultant and I'm an online training expert. So I like to train people, and also I like to convey the message to people online as well, so that more people can be reached and will be able to, circulate the information to all those that need to hear it. I launched a platform which is called Connect with Laugh for helping startups and existing businesses with strategies that would help them sustain and grow their businesses. So you can actually reach me on WhatsApp. So you have all my details online. So I'm not going to be telling you all what it is, but you can actually see it online. So on Instagram, I'm also there. On Facebook, I'm there. On YouTube, in which you're actually using to listen to this, I'm there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And of course, you can send me an email. So I'm available on all those platforms. Look at this image that you have on the screen, the Nigerian situation. So there are three eyes in which I've identified there. So one of the eyes is instability, the other one is insecurity, then another one is infrastructure. So you can see those three eyes. Think about it yourself. So this image is to let us know how these three eyes have affected a lot of people or a lot of businesses in Nigeria. So you can talk about instability, insecurity, infrastructure, and that you can also center it on other aspects of business. Okay, so we'll look at the forecast. Before we start digging deep into some of those things that we've identified earlier on those three eyes, so we are going to be looking at the key forecast for businesses in 2026. So the first point I put there is capital reforms. Businesses need to leverage on structural reforms and the foreign exchange for stability and growth. A lot of businesses are there, they don't leverage on all those things. So all the structural reforms that we are having in Nigeria, or in Africa, in the areas where your business is structured, because there are different sectors for those businesses. So you look at your own sector and you say, oh, what can I do? How can I leverage on some of these reforms, some of those things that they have brought out? The tax reforms, many other reforms that we have, even policies by government. How can I leverage on those things? So the foreign exchange is another aspect of it. Yes, we understand inflation. Yes, we understand some of these things. Yes, we understand the effect. But again, how do I leverage? How can my business leverage on these reforms and even forex for stability and growth of my business, because that's how a business owner should be thinking. So another thing is aligning and integrating things like the tax and other FX policies to promote local sourcing and production. How can we take advantage of this? If we cannot import a lot of those things from outside the country, how can we promote how we can produce these things locally? We have to start looking at how we can produce locally, sourcing for things locally, raw materials, and different things like that. How do we align our businesses to ensure that we fit into this category? So, another point is focusing on local content. We have to see how we can focus on the local content. So, it's still more, it relates to the second point where it talks about the local sourcing. So, we have to see how we can focus on local content. Then, another point is understanding the implication of this new, especially the new tax reform or new tax act that we have now. How is it going to affect our business? Because a lot of people are learning about it. It's not just to say, oh, I don't care. You need to care, because how does it affect your business? So these are more are things that we are going to be learning here. How we can take advantage of things that we can have from this all these reforms and many other things that are going on currently in Nigeria. So join me, please don't touch that dial. Join me as I go along. There's still a lot that we're going to be discussing. Please stay tuned. Okay, here's a question for you. How can startups and MSMEs deal with the rising costs and economic instability? Because we can't say things are really stable right now. Yes, I know government, we've listened, we've heard them, we've seen a few things that, oh, they are trying to see how they can stabilize, the rate of inflation, that it can go down. They're trying to see how it can drop. Now it's about maybe 16%. I'm still going to talk about it in the next, maybe a couple of slides on the next slide. That means it's still going up and down. So what do they do? I listened to a particular economic outlook that was done a few weeks ago, and they were talking about, oh, okay, how they are trying to bring down rate of inflation. But again, it's affecting the economy. Things are expensive. Things are pretty expensive. The cost of living is high. So what do we do? How do startups, small businesses, cope in this situation? And that brings me to the next slide. You can see how it's as if so many things are pulling small businesses, pulling the sun. It's not even encouraging. The landscape, the economy, at times is very, very difficult, very tasking. Saying, oh, you want to start up a business. I run businesses and I understand. There are some, at some point, you might even feel like, oh, do I shut down? Where do I go? How do I go? And you have so many questions that you're asking yourself. So let's assess the current reality. Stabilization is not a destination. I like that. Stabilization is not a destination, meaning that even with stabilization, so many things can still occur, right? But again, it helps the situation. High inflation. Yeah, I talked about that. The inflation, things up and down, even the forex. For a while now, people had said, oh, okay, there's a bit of stability, but how stable? People are still scared. They can't sleep with their two eyes closed. Price stability, prices are not stable. You're selling something, the next minute the price has fallen and you have bought at a very huge price. So how do you sell? If you're selling at a very expensive price, nobody will buy from you because they are seeing it cheaper somewhere else. And there's no difference in what you're selling and what they're selling. I know branding and all of that helps the business, but there are certain things that are just the regular. Somebody selling food stuff now. How would you say you want to brand differently? You can't really say you want to brand differently because what you're selling, somebody else too is selling it. Excessive liquidity, so much money being thrown around. At the end of the day, there are ripple effects of all this. Data driven monetary policy. So it's very, very important that, we look at the data. We look at what information do we have? What's the data? What's it looking like? And what's the policy around it? We can't stop talking about encouraging domestic production. It has helped so many countries, China and a lot of other countries, that you see that domestic production had aided their economy. So it has boosted a lot of things around their economy. And it has helped exportation as opposed to importation. So reducing importation, bringing in things into the country. We can make a lot of those things ourselves. So why do we have to import? And you see in some places that people cherish imported things more than the locally made. So we need to look at that. Foreign exchange glut. The glut in the foreign exchange. Then volatility. So let's look at some of those points. Rising costs. Rising costs, increased expenses as a result of inflation. So definitely the cost of living is very high. Many families are sworn in poverty, or the poverty level is high. I mean, they can't even feed per day. They can't have more than a meal or even maybe something just to keep themselves alive in some cases. So also issue around supply chain. We have that happening as well. So high cost of production for many companies. They can't produce at the rates which is expected because it's high. Many things are not. We talked about infrastructure the other time. The cost of production is high. Electricity is one of those things. People will say, oh, what are the issues you have? They will keep mentioning electricity, but we say to them, you have to find alternatives. Well, the alternatives are not cheap. They are very, very expensive. Rapid rate of change, changes occurring too, can also, increase the cost. Tough terrain, transportation. Ah, transportation. Now, many people don't even, yes, good delivery and all of that, but a lot of times when they hear about what it will cost them to even get to from point A to point B, it's huge, because fuel, whatever means that they're using for transport, is also high. So how do you want to understand? How do you want to fathom? How do you want to do your business effectively without increasing the cost? High cost of basic and essential commodities. So these are the effects. So we also want to have a general assessment. And you can see the ripple effect, because there's rising costs, but the salaries are not increasing. No increment in the salaries. Any report loss on Nigeria foreign exchange is high. Result of unification of exchange rate. All costs gone up in direct proportion. All costs have gone up in direct proportion. All the costs have gone rapidly high. Government initiatives, leakages and wastages towards implementation. Government, they initiate a lot of things. They'll say, oh, they want to do this, they want to do that. But you just realize that at the end of the day, some people will sabotage the effort. They will not allow it to happen because of what they want to do. Corruption is high. So it doesn't just lie on the table of the government officials, but even all the people down the chain. A lot of people want to sabotage it. They don't want the thing or initiative to work. So we have all of that happening. So how do we reduce this? Because it's not just to complain, but also to say, how do we reduce the effect? We have to change our lifestyle. Discipline. Because you look at, oh, as an individual, how does this affect me? As a business owner, what do I do to change the lifestyle? You might have been living in a particular way, you might have been running business a particular way. You have to reduce some things. You have to cut down the cost. And you look at the best approach to be able to do that. So discipline goes a long way. It's just like you deal with your individual lives and you say, oh, you're disciplined about it. You're intentional about this. Or things around maybe like your diet, you feel that, oh, you're overweight and you want to walk around. I'm just to use that as a typical example, right? Things like diet. Then you look at, oh, okay, you're overweight. I want to be able to lose weight. Exercise will help, yes. But at the same time, what you eat, swallow different things, you have to cut down on the calories. So these are things. So discipline is top on the list. Deliberate need for investment. You have to invest so that it's not just, oh, putting money somewhere and not looking at how you can, increase what you're earning. So distress sales, if you have liquidity, you may need to sell. Then downsizing. Exit management can be an option. Downsizing might not be the best option, but exit management, it's a better option. But again, downsizing can be considered when you can give them choices somewhere else rather than just keeping them and not being able to meet up. Okay, so let's look at how to reduce the effect. We are still talking about businesses. Cut down on physical work hours for the business owners. So you cut down on physical work hours and embrace virtual. That has been done even during COVID and afterwards. A lot of people realize that, oh, they have to cut this down and embrace what? The virtual way. So that even the time of the waste you have conveying people to and fro, the time taken, they would have done a lot of work and more productive. So provide salary incentives to cushion effect of things. When you don't have so much to give them some kind of salary incentives that will keep them going, and ensure that the salaries that you want to pay is being paid on time, to ensure that people are giving their best to the work. Provision of staff, buses or ways to convey them, or ensuring that, oh, there's closeness from their home to work. So all those things too matter. Revenue, customer acquisition. How do you acquire more customers? Product development strategy. How do you develop new products? How can that help you? Then remote hiring of staff. So possible solutions you could leverage on technology. And very, very important, you need to leverage on technology as the solution. There is no way you can avoid bringing in technology into your line of business. There is no business that you don't need technology. Agri, energy, different sectors. You need fashion, you need technology. Leverage on technology. Shrinkflation is another thing. So, for instance, you see spaghetti. They don't really want to do what they don't want to increase the price excessively, and gala some other things like that. There are many, many of them. Some would even do elimination, some will do modification to their products so that they have varieties. People can actually go for other options. I saw a particular brand of rice, something less than maybe uh, uh, 10 grams or something of it being sold. So somebody that doesn't want to buy 1 kg can actually pick up the 5 grams or whatever quantity, and they can still make or have a meal. So it's not to force people to get something, but again, look for options for people to have. So inflation is actually good. Source for funding. There are different sources for funding that you can have. You can have grants and other funding opportunities. This is a time and period where a lot of organizations are even bringing out all sorts of funding opportunities for people. So explore some of those funding opportunities. You see organizations that are also partnering with organizations that give some kind of financing or cushion the effect, right? They partner with them, they provide financial leakages. Organizations like EDC, they don't provide funding, but they give you training, they give you access to finance, opportunity to connect with financial organizations that can help. But they help you structure your business so that the businesses will be attractive to such organizations. So we also have some institutions that are supporting different sectors like that. So we have Faith Foundation, you have MasterCard Foundation, you have Oxfam, Novid, you have ExxonMobil Foundation, Tony Elumelu Foundation gives grants, and there are many others like that, locally and internationally, that we can explore. So it's good to explore and look at possible solutions for our businesses. Don't just sit down, but the work has to be done. You have to apply. The business has to have value. It must be seen as a business that is valuable, and you must provide value to the customers and to the community. So those are the things that attract funders or people that want to invest in businesses. They must be able to see the viability of the business. Is it going to last? Is it going to exist in the next 3 to 5 years? Is it going to exist beyond that? What does the business look like? Is it embracing things like circularity or sustainability? What's the sustainability of that business? They'll look at different options. So, how do you get this kind of funding? Be in the right community. I talked about EDC, Faith Foundation, MSME Africa, Lagos Investors. So, there are many, many of them like that. Angel investors. So, you have them, but there are eligibility requirements. So things like you have to have CAC registration and some other licenses or registrations as well. Region, gender, at times it could be a gender thing that they want female. So you look at, oh, which one? Even if you're female and they're looking at female, so that means the chances of even getting in is higher. It might even be good gender, notwithstanding whatever it is, try and meet the requirement. Because if you're not eligible, then there's no point taking such grants or going for such financing. So convincing concept notes for applying is important. The impact, it must be impressive. If it's not impressive, nobody will buy into it. I sit on panels and I know this. There are certain things that are being checked, and if those things you don't meet the requirements, you might not even move to the next level because they'll feel, oh, this is not the kind of businesses that they are looking at for. So, survival strategy. So this is the next. This slide is showing survival strategy. Vision, long term, keeps you from short term instability. So if you have a vision for your business, the long term vision, not just the short term one, it helps you to survive. So another thing is looking at response rate. SWOT. We A lot of us are familiar with the SWOT. analysis, which is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And there's also SWOT. So where you have aspirations and results. So the next slide shows us the SWOT, typical example of a SWOT. And flexibility, adjust your business models. You understand business model. I've taken business model and I also take it one of the things I train people on. If you need such services, you can contact me on any of those platforms. There are different models that you can use to be able to, change your business strategy. Cash and revenue is the bloodline of any business. So you have to acquire customers aggressively. So that's the SWOT model analysis. We may not have all the time to look at it, but there are so many questions there that you can ask yourself for the S, the O, the A, and the R. I already talked about, because strengths and opportunities also applies to SWOT, but in SWOT you also have aspirations and results. So what's the way forward? That's like a question that you have to think about or ask. So what's the way forward? So providing innovative financing models, digital economy, the currencies, QR codes, services, ATM services. You can see all those things are part of the things that are helping the economy. And they're also providing opportunities for people to thrive. Right? Collaborative partnerships with public and private sectors, even with other business owners. We have to look at partnerships. It's a key thing. We can look at this in another session. We need to domesticate investment opportunities, not just taking it out, but also look at how can we invest locally. So we have emerging and strategic businesses in Nigeria. And we look at some of the places that government are putting attention, and even other people within the country are paying attention for this year 2026. So the area of power. Power is not just, the electricity supplied by Eco Distribution, that is the one in Lagos State, or in other states, or Ibadan Distribution Company, or Kano Distribution. No. But also things that are around solar, around alternative source of energy, and many other sources, not just solar, but many other sources. Transportation is another area that people are really latching onto, and they're making money. Refineries, that is on the high side, but yes, you don't have to be upstream, you can be downstream, you can also even be a reseller, you can be so many things in that line of business. Mining and oil rigs are also areas. E-commerce is big. Data centers, you see that data analysts are most required of employment now. People want to mine their data. It's very, very important for an economy to grow. We need to mine our data. Entertainment, huge. See, the transformation in the entertainment industry in Nigeria has been huge. Even recognized in foreign countries, both music, film, different areas of entertainment. Huge. We can latch onto it. Real estate, shoplets. Huge. Accommodation now is on the high side. And as developments exist, it will continue to grow. So let's take all our questions, clarifications, and concerns, or whatever it is. We can drop it there. Even the comments, we need to take those ones as well. If you have comments, please drop it in there. And if there are questions, you have responses to them. Please like and share and subscribe, right? Subscribe to my channel. I look forward to connecting more and more with you and sharing more with you. Thank you for listening.